If you have a heart problem, don't get into management because it's not going to get any better. No,
Yes.
in all seriousness, I was 25. I had reoccurring pericarditis. I had
Okay.
to stop playing. My last club was Limerick in the League of Ireland. And bizarrely, my manager, Tommy Lynch, was actually here visiting us in Ireland probably about 6 months ago. His daughter lives and works here in New Zealand, so he was out. He came by the academy, and it was brilliant just to catch up after
Nice.
decades of not seeing each other. But obviously, as a player with a heart problem, it's very, very challenging. But it also just shows that you don't only have to be a player in this game. There's many, many different roles. Look at yourself too, that
Yeah.
we all can reinvent ourselves in many ways. And I reinvented myself very, very quickly after ending my playing career as a coach. It wasn't anything I ever dreamt about doing. I got into it, and I haven't regretted it for 1 second. I just grabbed the bull by the horns and run with it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now I'm going to start this off with some diverse questions. Here we go, straight off. Are you superstitious?
I'd say yes or no, but I played a table tennis match last night with one of our younger players. It was more of a he thought it was actually a game. I thought it was more of a psychological exercise, and I put a little something special potion on the table, and I made sure I beat him. So
Nice.
that probably means I am a little superstitious or a little crazy too at the same time.
Hey, you know what? It helps. It all helps in this game. Second one,
Yeah,
favorite color. Favorite color. What's your color? What kind of color person are you?
probably red.
Red, red, red.
Yeah,
Favorite player of all time?
Lothar Matthäus.
Lothar Matthäus. You know what? I watched that 1990 World Cup and was so impressed with Lothar Matthäus and the guys. And I mean, for me, that's a knock-on question coming soon. But yeah, Lothar Matthäus. Ich spreche auch Deutsch. I lived in Germany. You did too. So we had to learn the German, right? And I loved
Yeah, of
my time
course.
in Germany. I know you did too. But who is
Yeah.
your favorite coach all time? And does it make you base your game tactically from them?
Favorite coach in just global football, or favorite coach that I actually had myself?
Global football, I'd say.
Honestly, I can't pick one. There's so many. I take so much from so many different people. Like I love the heavy metal approach of Jurgen Klopp. I'm enamored by so many different managers all over the place, like Thomas Tuchel and his mindset and how he's willing to adapt certain things in different places. Diego Simeone, how he maximizes the club that he has and the resources that he has at his disposal. Honestly, the list is endless. Like I genuinely appreciate every manager. Like I go do different random studies of different managers and different clubs in my off seasons, and some of that just exposes me to people that somewhat really mainstream. To be brutally honest, you get an idea for how people are working in remote leagues, and you can acquire skill and knowledge from everybody that you expose yourself to.
Now, we touched on it slightly, but talking World Cup, FIFA World Cup competition since 1975, since you've been on the planet, 64 since I've been on the planet. I know my favorite World Cup of all time, and it was 1970. What was your favorite World Cup of all time?
1986, bizarrely, because I born and raised and grew up in apartheid South Africa, and because of sanctions, we weren't able to get the games on TV. But I listened to the entire 1986 World Cup on the radio,
On
and
the radio, eh?
I have pictures in my head from what I listened to of those games. You'll hate me because of this, because of Diego Maradona's goal against England, that I could literally visualize. And then the official video came out of the World Cup called Hero of the '86 World Cup, and I watched and I played that on a tape cassette over and over and over again. So yeah, 1986 World Cup. Even though Germany lost in the final, and that's my blood, I absolutely loved the pictures that were in my head from listening to a World Cup on the radio.
You know what? I spent time in Germany, so did you. I fell in love with the German game and tactically as well. And I mean, I grew from watching and playing in Germany. I know you must have as well, but how much of an effect was the German game and philosophy on you moving forward?
And massive. Like I grew up in a very unstructured environment in South Africa where we played football, but there wasn't really a structure to it. You just if you were good, you were good. If you were bad, you were bad. And went to Germany where got completely exposed to the complete opposite. It was mass structure. You play this position, you are supposed to do this. And I didn't really realize as a player how much I was actually learning at the time. But now as a manager and as a coach, when I look back, I learned massive things in terms of if you do this, this is the reason why you do it, and this is the outcome we're trying to achieve. So I took a lot from my few years in Germany. It's made me who I am as a person today, but it's definitely made me who I am as a professional.
I agree with the making you as the professional and the person over there, because that's exactly what it gave me as well. I grew up in the game out there. Now talking about the coaches as well, I know you've got various licenses, but I want to just talk about the A and the B UEFA license. Two short questions in one. How did you go about getting it, and how long did it take you to be a B UEFA licensed coach?
I was lucky because of having played professionally. I went and did it in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I think I had to show that I'd played a minimum of 3 years of professional football. I had to show my contracts. So I went into a cohort, big time people that I'm not even remotely close to in terms of a playing career. We're in the group like Shay Given, Antoine Sibieski, Kevin Coban was actually in my course too.
Big names, big names.
Yeah, so an amazing group of people, amazing group of coaches, just amazing to share thoughts and concepts together. We were in an expedited group, so we started our B and went straight into the A afterwards on the same course.
Wow.
But then you have to go back for the second week to go follow to finish it off the next year. So yeah, fortunate from that perspective. Great place to go learn. I'd highly recommend going to Northern Ireland. I think the people that work with the Federation have fantastic football ideas.
Nice.
But I say this all the time. I've gained from every federation where I've taken my licenses. To get my A license in Canada exposed me to something completely different too. To get my A license in the US also exposed me to something completely different. My A license in the US was with a small cohort of, you had to be a professional coach to be in that group. So we had MLS head coaches, USL Championship head coaches in the group. It was very small and very intimate, and I learned a lot from that too. So you can learn with every course, every license. To be honest, every conversation you have about the game, you can always take something from it.
Now, talking FC Edmonton, I know you coached a lot of other teams, especially Cincinnati, and I wasn't in favor of that, how that came to an end, because I think that they cut the line a little short too quick there. I won't go into that, but FC Edmonton moving through, just simply with the financial difficulties of the club and the player difficulties in acquisitions, etc., and the final season per se with players being on loan, how tough was that to keep the team running, and how tough was it to keep the confidence and the good feel in the club week to week?
Yeah, honestly, I think you touched on FC Cincinnati there. I think that some of my biggest achievements in football were with FC Cincinnati, and obviously a disappointing end.
Yeah.
But it's FC Edmonton was really disappointing, to be brutally honest. A great club, a great city, a great football community, but really, really disappointing with how things transpired, just because we didn't have the resources to be successful. I inherited a team that came lost in the league. We were fighting tooth and nail to work our way up the league. We did a little bit of that within the resources that we had. And then, unfortunately, obviously, with the ownership challenges and the league coming over, the last year, honestly, that was incredibly difficult. And I take my hat off to the players and the few staff that were left. We all just rolled up our sleeves and got on with it. I think other people might have just walked away, to be brutally honest. It was thankless work. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but it was very, very difficult. And I truly hope that Edmonton gets a club to come back in the CPL, because the city really deserves one.
Let's moving on. Like this shirt I'm wearing, as I say when we went to a break, this shirt, I'm going to step to the side, Alan, to give you a bit of a better look. Now, this came around in 2004, Edmonton Aviators from Lotto, and that was the badge. I thought they had a fantastic logo, and I thought the club was great at the time, but it died financially within months, literally months. And I was talking it on TSN like I did with FC Edmonton, like I did with the Brickmen, like I did with other teams that came around in Edmonton, the Drillers especially. What do you think is the major reason why Edmonton has such a problem in getting a team to stick? Because Calgary doesn't seem to have a problem, and other cities don't seem to have the same problem. If you could put your finger on it, what would you think the main problem is in blooding a team in Edmonton? Because I just read out 4 failures in 20 years, and there's no end to that. I think we need a different direction. But really, in your own words, why do you think football, or soccer as we call it out here, doesn't work in Edmonton?
You know what's funny is that people are willing to ask, I gave the answer. And I appreciate you asking the question, because I've actually lived it.
Yeah.
FC Cincinnati did the exact same thing. They tried in Cincinnati to have a professional football club, and they tried a few different times, and it never took off. and it was very, very similar to Edmonton. Slightly bigger city, but not that much bigger than Edmonton. Very similar type of mindset within the city. Very working class, very supportive, very community based. And Cincinnati it just didn't work. They tried a few times. Ownership didn't get it right. They didn't get locations right. They didn't get stadiums right, and it fell by the wayside until FC Cincinnati came in. And FC Edmonton reminds me of that in many, many respects. And I have mass respect for the Fats because of the commitment that they made to the game, and they've lost a lot of money, obviously, going through that. But to do it right and move it forward, you just have to look at what FC Cincinnati did, and there is your solution. Location, location, location. Is get your stadium location right, get your ownership group right, make sure they come in and they realize that they may struggle and suffer for a little while, but in the long run, they're going to have success and they're going to make money from that and bring in the right people. Those three things, you're setting yourself up for success. The rest Edmonton has. Edmonton has a football culture. It has people. It has the community. It has people that take a lot of pride in the city. And I still think this to this day, even Edmonton was very, very disappointing professionally. Personally, it was fantastic. And Edmonton can be successful if they get the stadium location right, they get ownership right, and they put the right people in place.
Tough question.
Go ahead.
Tough question, but great answer, mate. Really, I mean,
yeah, I feel very passionate about it too, because it's not many people have lived what I lived through in Cincinnati, to be pretty honest. And very few people, probably even less, have lived through what I lived through in Edmonton. And you learn from both experiences. And if you can put both of those experiences together, it really is a recipe for success. But people have to be willing to want to do that. And that takes a lot of work, obviously. And people, what I figured out on football, unfortunately, I'll call it what it is, people like to talk a good game. And it's easy to talk about it. It's easy to have an opinion about it. But when you actually have to do the work, not too many people step up to the plate.
Absolutely. On the money, Alan. I couldn't agree with you more. That is absolutely brilliant. That answer needs to be put in a bottle and sent around Canada. It really does. Do you think that the CPL can survive for another 5 years based on what the last 5 years were? Because I hear rumblings that finances are not the greatest. You know what I'm talking about too. The player pool is only as small as it can be or as big as it wants to be. But the talent and the finances, do you think sometimes there's not enough promotion with this team as well?
You know, what's funny is sometimes in football, you can take non-football solutions to go find a solution. And if you look at the CPL and you look at all the clubs, they're all startup businesses.
Yes.
And as much as we talk about football, startup businesses are not easy to start. They're going to have teething problems. And I think that's why the league has had some teething problems. I think they've masked some of those challenges. But then on the flip side, they've had a lot of success too. They put out a fairly decent product. It can be better, of course. But they're going to go through these ups and downs. I truly hope the league survives. I think that's the biggest challenge. Can you get to 10 years? I think once they've got to 10 years, I think they're hopefully through and they can continue to move forward, because there's a lot of good ownership groups. There's a lot of good people in the league. And it's a massive part of Canadian football. Canada needs this league to be successful. And yes, we can get into the weeds. There's been some incorrect decisions and certain deals and all of those types of things. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have really put their heads forward. They've put money into this, and they're committed to hopefully the long run, so that we do have a league in 10, 15, 20 years' time.
So moving forward on that, say we are here in 10 or 15 years' time, which I truly hope, because like you said, this country needs to keep a professional league. I sometimes think, though, from the fans' angle, we have the Major League Soccer from the US, which, yes, we have 3 big teams in, and then we have Canadian leagues as well, and we have the CPL, Canadian Premier League. If you were to gauge at what level, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whichever, what level of soccer would you say that the Canadian Premier League fits itself into?
So you mentioned the MLS, CPL, and what was the other league that you mentioned?
Just general Canadian league, i.e. the amateur lowest of the low.
MLS is significantly better than CPL. And yes, in any one-off game, anybody can beat anybody. And I think the CPL teams have gone and done that. So mass kudos to the coaches and their group of players in certain games. I've enjoyed watching those upsets, but MLS is a much bigger beast than the CPL. It's not even close. I would love to see some of the CPL managers go manage in MLS. because that is a whole completely different ball game. You're managing all different types of players, personalities, budgets. It's a whole different game. So MLS is significantly above the CPL. And then to be quite honest, the CPL is definitely above the rest of the landscape. It's the players that have stepped up and proven in the university game or in amateur and semi-pro football in Canada that they're better than that level. It's grown, it continues to grow, and that's going to take time. You don't just all of a sudden create a new professional league and think, oh, these players that you're calling professional now are going to be world beaters by any means. It takes time. There've been some great individual players that have been developed in the league, which is kudos to all the coaches and the development pathways in place. But it takes time to grow a big base of players. I think many people have done a fantastic job so far, but it's going to take a few more years to really separate the CPL from other levels in the country and maybe chip away at trying to narrow the gap between the CPL and the MLS.
Now, talking fun times, bad times, what was the best, the funniest time that you had with FC Edmonton over the 2 years? And the first year and the second year were very, very close to each other. And like I say, I commend you for doing the job that you did and not dragging a team over the line. You carried this team for 2 years. It wasn't dragging it over the line. A lot of people want to get that wrong, but you didn't drag anybody anywhere. You schooled and you coached, and you could see that team getting better over those 2 years. And I brought that to the press conferences once or twice, but what you see with your eye happening on the field was down to you, Alan. So I got to say this much. What was your favorite time, maybe instance or funnest moment that you ever had in those years with FC Edmonton?
There's some funny moments that I can share, but those are primarily based on lack of resources and comical moments where you have flashbacks about certain things you've seen in professional football, and all of a sudden you're having to deal with it. So it's probably better if I avoid some of those. Honestly, some of the victories in that first year, I think we inherited a team. I think they got 1 point in the Island games.
Yes.
They were decimated. They were really at rock bottom. Had to come in and really try flip things over in terms of building a new culture. I thought we started doing an excellent job of that. And as that first year went along, you could just see we had no resources. Anything that we were asking for, we just didn't have the ability to put anything in place. So we literally just tried to squeeze the most that we could out of the group of players that we have. And I give all those players credit. Just to get that team off the bottom was a massive feat. We also beat, other than Cavalry, we beat all the other top teams. We beat Forge, we beat Pacific. I think Pacific won the league that year. They beat Forge in the final. So our lower level team managed to cause a lot of upsets during the course of that year. So we took a lot of pride in beating. I think we beat Forge twice that year. And Pacific, who won it, Pacific, who won it, we beat them at home. We drew with them at their place. So some really good individual matches where the team, the collective, got rewarded. And then the second year really was about player development. It was about giving players a chance to use the team that we had and all that we could to help them along their individual pathways and see how far they could go in the game, and revitalize a few players' careers, like a Gabby Batar. See him, who really had struggled in his first chance in the league. And make him into the player that he is now. And he's a professional footballer, and he'll continue to be a professional footballer for a few years because of that season. And Gabby's not the only one. There were other players in that group. Wesley Timoteo was another one who was playing low-level football in Portugal and came back to us and gave us the opportunity to work with him. Obviously, the system that they put in place, even though we found the players, then the players were signed to other clubs and then loaned back to us. That was just the mechanism that the league understandably put in place to manage the year. But we invested a lot of time and effort and energy into those players. So it was really rewarding to see those two, but a lot of other players rise from that experience.
Absolutely. I mean, 2021, I should say 2021, you finished 7th. You beat out Atletico Ottawa, who finished 8th. Next season, they win the title. So it just shows you how close those 8 teams were in the league and how tough a job it was. But moving on to the sad and the bad, which was the worst moment with FC Edmonton?
Probably the day where we got the phone call that was the end. I think that was you could see it coming, you could feel it coming. I'd be privy in terms of my position to know not everything, but know a decent amount. But the actual day of having that call and having all the players on the call with the league, that's a sad day. To be part of a club that is folding is not anything I wish on anybody. I think as humans and football people, we put so much into all these jobs as coaches, administrators, people that work for the club, the kit
Blood,
man,
sweat, and tears. Blood, sweat, and tears.
medical people, the front office at FC Edmonton. My heart bled for those people because they gave more time and far more years than I did to the cause. And when we had that final call, it was pretty gut-wrenching, to be honest.
I got a feel for you, mate, because being in football, I've had some of the downers that you're explaining too, and it never tastes good. And I commend you once more because you look out for the next guy, the next girl. You're more worried about the people behind you, which support you moving forward. So that's something that not all coaches hoist in. You've been around the world, so have I. And some of the coaches we know are very impersonal, very blank, and just so business without personality. You're the complete opposite, which brings all those into the fray. Question, would you do it again at FC Edmonton, knowing now, but what you didn't know then? Would you do it all over again? It's a tough act, but would you consider that again?
So that's a tough question. To be honest, probably yes is my initial answer, just because of the people I met.
Yeah.
The people I met at the club, the people I met in the community, those are friendships and relationships that will last a lifetime. So my initial answer would be yes. I would hope it would be under different circumstances. I found out afterwards, it was literally a matter of weeks after I started the job that things started to go sideways. So that was incredibly disappointing. But the people I met, I do it again, and I go back and I do every single thing I could to try and maximize what we have, because at the end of the day, that's all you can do. Whatever situation you're in, make the most of it, and that way you can hold your head up high afterwards.
Brilliant. Absolutely. I mean, I watched all those teams go, all the coaches go, talk to all the coaches, talk to all the players, the commissioners, got to love and live those leagues. But you're so right. When it comes down to those final weeks, and even the media get a whiff of what's going sideways. But when you smell that it's coming to an end, it's not a happy day. It's not a good day. It's probably one of the worst days that you can live, because like you say, everybody around you has now got no job, got no vacation, and they've lost something that they were literally in love with. And you can't find many people that love their jobs, but I know you do, and I know I do, but must have been absolutely gut-wrenching for those people too. Now, I'll say this much. You've gone through all these leagues, you've gone around the world, and now you're with Western Suburbs. Give us a little insight into the Western Suburbs before we go.
Yeah, it's a really, this is a unique landscape in New Zealand, but it's a really exciting landscape, to be brutally honest. I kind of inherited a team here that was pretty similar to FC Edmonton, just in terms of where they finished in the league. Western Suburbs last year almost got relegated.
Right.
We're in the top tier of the New Zealand Football League, and it's divided into the Northern, Central, and Southern leagues. We're in the Central League, and there's 10 teams in the league, and the club finished 9th. So we came in, we took them from 9th to 5th. To make the next phase, which is called the National League for us, you have to be in the top 4. So we just missed out on that. A lot of players, the club, myself, were all disappointed at the time. But I think, honestly, in reflection, it's probably the best possible thing. We weren't ready to go into the National League right now. We progressed a lot. But if we'd gone into that league, I think we really would have struggled. And that's the league you go into to try qualify to get into the Oceania Champions League and then get to the FIFA World Club Championships. So this has been a great reflection time. I've got a youthful group. It's young players. We just had one of our young goalkeepers call up to the U17 New Zealand team who's going to the World Cup. So he flies out tonight. So it's an exciting group to work with. We have big goals, big dreams. We want to get to the National League. We want to get to the grand final. We want to get to the Oceania Champions League. We want to qualify for the FIFA World Club Championships. And who wouldn't? So those are massive dreams. So I'm excited to give it everything we can. It's the academy has a partnership with the club. That's how it works. So I'm the technical director of the academy, but I'm the head coach of Western Suburbs first team.
How long do you foresee Alan Koch staying with Western Suburbs?
Honestly, I'm open-minded, open-hearted. Like I'm here to make the most of this, and as long as it's working for everybody, we keep on going. And I include the club, I include the academy, the players, everybody in that. Let's go give it everything we can. until we can't do that anymore. It's a fun project to be part of. New Zealand's a great place to live. I'm in my office here and I can see the ocean, so I really can't be complaining that much. I see a football pitch, I see the ocean, and I see a big mountain behind it. So it's pretty fortunate from that perspective. But you never know where football's going to take you. The twists and the turns. I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I'd be in Edmonton. I never thought I'd be in Cincinnati. And you stay open in the process. But I'm enjoying where I am right now.
And you've got amazing popular positiveness around you as well. You look at an ocean and a bit of a mountain. I get to look at the Rocky Mountains out of my window. So we've both got something great to look at. But Alan, I got to tell you, thank you so much for your time, mate, honestly. And thank you for the times you let me come into the dressing room and talk to you prior to the press conferences and everything else that you did for me, even on the pitch. I got to say, big thank you to you, because not all coaches let you get that close. Understandably, you don't know who's around you at times, but I got to know you as best I could in the media. And I wanted to say thank you so much, because you're an absolute star for me, sir, an absolute star. And I wish you all the major best, getting more New Zealanders into the top flight of football down there at Western Suburbs. Alan Koch, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for your kind words. It's brilliant. So thanks a million.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Awesome,
Brilliant,
Steve. Thanks.
Alan. Thanks, man.